My faith is my superpower. I took pain and turned it into purpose. This is what my guest today said to me in our call. Welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader, a podcast dedicated to discussing women's unique challenges in the tech industry. I'm your host, Limor Bergman Gross, and I'm super excited to introduce Drocella Mugorewera. Drocella is a DEI consultant, and she's a former Rwandan member of parliament and a passionate advocate for women in leadership. And in our conversation today, Drocella opens up about her incredible journey from surviving political persecution to becoming an executive leader in the US. And she shares her unique diversity in action framework and the top 3 secrets every woman needs to know to break through career barriers and get promoted. So let's dive right in. Hi, Drocella. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Lemo.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And perhaps we can start by your personal story and journey. So, can you share maybe your journey of moving from Rwanda to the US and kind of the challenges that you faced along the way?
As a former member of parliament in Rwanda, in 2008, I was forced to flee my country, leaving home, everything, including my husband, my children, and all the things I invested in for more than 40 years because of oppression and persecution. You can imagine, as a parent who is listening or who replay, my daughter was 12 years old. My son was 14, and other siblings were also teenagers. This is the time when they needed me the most. And the journey was not easy, it was painful. I was frustrated, sometimes angry because I didn't understand why people can hate you or persecute you because of your ideas, while our laws and constitutions allow people to share their ideas. Even though that journey was painful and very frustrating and disappointing, I took it as an opportunity, and I'm grateful that through the American Refugee Program, my family was able to be reunited after 2 years. And now, as a leader, also, I am helping refugees and immigrants to not suffer like I suffered. And I remember when I did get my first job, which I'm grateful for, it was not matching my experience and my credentials because I did start with $6.55 an hour. I took that advantage of having income, and I learned how I can increase it because I didn't know at the very beginning that I can do 2 jobs or 3 jobs because I was single at that time. And I remember doing 14 hours a day, working 14 hours a day. So when my children will come, they can find something to live on, good resources. So I had to develop my resilience muscles and not crying that I lost a country. I welcome the opportunity of having a new country, new communities who are welcoming me to move forward. But as I said, the journey was not easy, but it was also an opportunity to create new relationship, new friendships, and also learn new things. Even that job when I was working at Goodwill Industries, I learned how to tag things, and I learned tag clauses and put tags on merchandise. And also I learned how to use the registry. So it was through pain, we can find purpose. And I think that now I'm happy that not only I'm speaking and helping only the Rwandan community, I am a global citizen who is in the diversity, equity, inclusion business, so I can spread the word and the message around the world.
Absolutely. And your story is definitely, shows how resilient you are. And do you have any tips for women facing challenges? Doesn't have to be as, severe as you faced, but how do you develop that kind of resiliency of kind of looking at the bright side, looking at how you, even though you work for, like you mentioned, like for goodwill for like 6.5 whatever dollars an hour, how do you develop that resilience and move forward?
So you develop that resilience by standing in faith. I think my faith is my number one superpower. And also, I did look into this situation as something I didn't call upon. So it did happen for me for a reason. And then I did try to see the good side of it because like as a parent, I wanted my children, for example, to study in good colleges. I was saving money for education for them. But now imagine having five children to study in America and be good professionals. No matter the uh, way we did get there, but my goals were attained. So I would say do not resist the circumstances that is trying to pull you down. See the good side. And also one tip I can give is to seek for support and to find a support cycle around you, because as I said, I started to create new friendship and learn new tips. I remember when I met Sue Carney, she was a stranger to me, but she did teach me the tips about networking, and networking is a superpower. So they say that your network is your net worth. I would encourage women who are struggling in any situation to find other people who are positive and who will support them, because sometimes do not be afraid of strangers, because strangers, they have their treasures in their our treasures in their hands. So and also being vulnerable and be able to share your story, because the stories connect us. Some people were afraid of me, or sometimes they think how do I, but can they approach me when I did take the first step? Do not wait for other people to come to you. Do the first step to go to find new friends, new connections, because this is now when I was working in a clinic and people were asked, who is your emergency contact? Some will say will write it with anger, say none. Other would say Jesus. I will tell you that I have now, since I have been here for 15 years, I'm not in that category. I have many people I can call in case of emergency. I have many people I can call to ask for advice. So do not be isolated in your bubble. Just go out and find new connections. That are the tips I can share.
Those are incredible tips. And how do you do that? Especially, for people who are more introverted and shy, like myself. How do you reach out to people? How do you even find those people who can be not necessarily just emergency contact, but like people that you can kind of talk to and share experiences?
That is a very good question. My husband is an introvert, and I can relate to what you're saying. Uh, what you do is, I sometimes they ask me, how do you even engage in the conversation? No, now in the virtual world, you can find meetup groups online. You can find meetup groups locally, and you can Google now with the technology. Now you can Google the meetups groups in your neighborhood even, and then I share with them how do you engage with strangers with this framework form, uh, F standing for family. So many people like to talk about their families, and you have to ask um, uh, a question: do you have a family, for example? And then O stands for occupation. What do you do for a living? So that is a question when you ask, they will respond to you. And then recreation. Many people have to have fun. They like to have fun. You ask them, what do they do to have fun? And then The other thing is the motivation. Why do they do what they do? Why do they like what they do, or how they make money for living? So the formula is simple, and people can always be. And then you go with a smile. We have a gift. Everybody has a smile. When you smile to somebody, they respond with a smile normally. So, and that opens up the conversation.
I am a true believer in that as well. Definitely smiling. So I think kind of what I got from you, first of all, virtually, it may be easier. At least for me, it's simpler just to reach out to someone virtually, whether it's on LinkedIn or some online community, um, and see kind of what of common interest you have. It could be hobbies, it could be family, right? It could
Yeah.
be professionally what you do, whatever it is, find the commonalities and engage in a conversation while being friendly and smiling just open up a whole new energy right around
Yes.
the conversation. I'm a big smiler, so every time I and people are
I know.
surprised.
Yes.
A lot of times I go even to the gym, right? I go to the gym
Yes.
and I just smile. And some people say, wow, what are you so happy about? And it's just like, it's not about being happy or not happy. It's about like, this is the best way to interact with people. And they say, wow, this is like so great that you smile and kind of lighten up my day. So smile is very powerful. Really agree with that.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree with that. So when you go online, you can find people with the common interest and the thing you like the most, what lights you up. So if you say, this is what I like in my life, you will go to find the people who like what you like so you can associate with them.
Yeah. And I just want to touch one topic that you mentioned in our pre-call. I mean, I'm kind of shifting gears to talk about, multilingualism. And you mentioned you speak multiple languages, right? I mean, I don't remember how many.
Five.
Five.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said that you believe that multiple languages is really crucial for future leaders. So can I share a little bit about that? Why is that so important?
Thank you for asking that question. I do believe that in this global economy, working or teaching in one language is no longer sufficient because we are becoming more diverse in our communities, in our schools, in our neighborhoods. We do trades with internationals. And the more languages you speak, the more you can connect to people, the more you can communicate, the more you are open minded and you are more empathetic. So, my mission is to teach the importance of speaking and working in multiple languages because we need empathetic leaders who connect, leaders who care about all the people in their communities without leaving anybody behind. And the sooner you start to learn those languages, the sooner you assimilate them. My grandson is 4.5 years old and he's learning the languages we are learning. And I want to advise parents or start from home. So the parents are the custodians of the languages their children can speak and talk and work in. Because I think that if you choose for them what to eat, what to wear, what other leisure they can be part of it. So it's the same with learning the languages. And also we have social responsibility of preserving the languages because they're getting extinct. And I advise people, if you have parents who are foreign born, who speak other languages, be curious. What are those languages? How did they, grandparents, great grandparents, learn about those languages? Because also that also connects you to your roots. And you have more excitement and engagement of preserving those languages. I do invite students at which level where they are to be curious about their neighbors, student, their friends, what languages they speak, so they can engage. Because when I was talking to one group after school, group of young men and women, they said that they can see isolation in people who are speaking other languages. But if you are a welcomer, you approach them. We're talking about strategies of approaching people. Approach those students and learn more about what they say, because you learn also different cultures through approaching them. And also, one guy told me that he wanted to learn Germany and he doesn't know how he can go by. And I told him to find a friend who speaks German, and then if they don't find, they can come and they find somebody who support them. He did come back. I assume that he did get support and find a friend who speak German. So I think one thing you can do is gifting your children another language, and also how you invest. For example, we are finishing summer, people are going back to school. A plan for the summer programs, including learning another language. And if you send your children overseas for abroad programs, tell them to learn another language. And I would advise people who are learning a second language not only for academic purposes. You learn that language for service. And imagine if everybody speaking or learning a second language can master it. We would have multiple lingual professional in different industry, engineers, doctors, and social workers in any area of industry, and you find people you can support. I want to give you an example before you ask another question. Recently, I went to a doctor's office with my husband. And then there was a guy for Romania, and then he couldn't communicate. There was one lady who wanted to help him, but they couldn't communicate. And in my mind, something came out to ask them if he was speaking Russian. And I say, ask him if he speaks Russian. And they said yes. So they wanted to tell him that the interpretation, there will be an interpreter online. And then I did explain to him that an interpreter will be provided in Russian. Other people were looking at me with big eyes, how I could speak Russian. But that was an exciting moment in my life, because with languages, you can save lives too.
For sure. I'm sure that they didn't expect you to know Russian, so it's like...
Yeah.
I can imagine how the expressions on their faces. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I speak only 2 languages. I wish I spoke more. It's possible, but it's an effort. So definitely.
Which ones?
So I speak Hebrew and English. I do know a little bit of French, but not much. I studied it like many years ago, and I guess I didn't invest much in it. I didn't need to. So I mainly work in English, which is not my first language. It's my second language, but I feel comfortable with it. Yeah. But I wish I spoke more, for sure.
Okay, it's not late.
It's not late.
We can practice. Next time we will speak French together.
Yeah, it's never late. That's for sure. That's one thing I believe in. It's never late. And I think that learning is also, I read someplace about kind of continuous learning, not just about languages, but in general, how it kind of helps your brain develop and prevent or slows down kind of diseases like Alzheimer's. So definitely, I mean, it's a good thing to continue learning.
Yes, that's for sure. And learning multiple languages contribute to that too. So yes,
definitely.
Yeah, continuous learning is gold.
It's gold, absolutely. And let's talk about diversity, right? I mean, because you're very passionate and active in diversity. So can you tell us a little bit about Diversity in Action Framework and its main goals?
Yes, and I did create this Diversity in Action Framework because, as I told you, as a refugee transplant from Rwanda to America, I have learned the trials and tribulation of fitting in and being different. And I found out that that was a great asset for companies. So, and now many employees are complaining or struggling with employee turnover. And I said, what solution can I bring to them? And I did create this Diversity in Action Framework to help seasoned and not seasoned CEOs of companies to embed diversity in action practices, because it is proven that companies who are more diverse are more performant, and then employees are engaged, and then the level of turnover is lower. So this framework has 5 pillars and 5 sub-pillars. The pillar number 1 is declaring your commitment to diversity in action. I think yourself and I and other people who are listening, if you don't declare your commitment to something, commitment is key. So, in this commitment, you have to show, why do you care about diversity? What does it mean for you? What are the wording? We as entrepreneurs, they tell us to speak the language our clients understand. So, do you speak the language to attract the more employees? Because sometimes we talk about attraction, but are we attractive enough? And this declaration of diversity is a gateway for people to come to you and then to see how they can stay. The second one is to define your goals and metrics, because sometimes you don't know where to go, you don't have a baseline, where do you stand, so, and where you want to go, and how can you measure. One of the indicators, for example, is like trust. Building trust among your team is key. So how do you measure trust among your employees? So the third one is to dedicate enough resources to diversity and equity efforts, because sometimes people take it as a checkbox. It's not a checkbox. Diversity and inclusion is a way of being, doing, and living. So it's not enough to appoint a VP in charge of diversity and equity and just to say, I did it. So do provide resources for them. And the fourth pillar is developing a training plan. It has been proven that companies who have a good training plan, mentorship program, and a good onboarding program, they succeed more than those who do not have that. So having a training plan on diversity, how people live together, how you create a safe space. And one of the things I do is helping companies to create ambassadors, not just having one person, but a different level of management. How do we have diversity in equity and inclusion ambassadors? That will help you to sustain your efforts. And the last, not least, is to deliver results and celebrate your teams. Because sometimes people are there, they are working, but how do you celebrate your teams? How do you put in a place, for example, a because of you award that will be given to every employee, no matter the level where they are? And then how do you celebrate them? Do you have a calendar to celebrate multicultural festivity besides what the federal or state festivity or holidays are there? So, and then the sub-pillars, I just want you to make sure that you are welcome. So, and how do you feel? Well, some people say welcome. Even to see the word welcome on your website, it can, it's emotional. They say, oh, I am welcome in this place. And then you have to build the trust. I teach people how to build the unity on their teams, but also to embed the storytelling as a practice in your company. And then how do you create wealth? When you engage and onboard your employees and you tell them that they are the first asset for your company, you start to build the trust, and then they will trust and then you tell them the expectations, and they ask you what also you want from them and how they can help each other. I am teaching people how to do win-win-win situation, because sometimes we defend employees, but employers also deserve to know that they want the good for the employees, and the employees want the good for employers. So I am creating that bridge so they feel that they need each other, and the top-down leadership is no longer working. So we have to find a way to make sure that those employers and employees are collaboratively building the company, so, and appreciate each other. So this is how the pillars are and the sub-pillars are. So welcome is the sub-pillar number 1, and then trust, story, and unity as well as wealth. So how do you create wealth and how do you spread wealth among your team?
That's wonderful. Yeah, and definitely I agree with you that it shouldn't be a lip service. It should be something that you do and ingrain into the company culture and not just a word or like numbers that you need to hit. Oh, I have X amount of whatever. Here we're talking about women, so X amount of or X percentage of women, but how do you actually make them feel like they belong, like you care about them, like they're welcomed, as you mentioned, and help them grow and nurture them
Yeah,
in your company? It's not just about, oh, I hired women, I have X percent of women. And
yeah.
let's kind of shift gears about top three secrets to help women get promoted. So kind of, first maybe we'll talk about what are some common challenges women face where they're trying to get promoted based on your experience.
So based on my experience, women are saying that they are training people who get promoted and then they stay in those same place over and over. And one of the secrets I want to give to these women is to be bold and express what you want. How do you frame your want to your supervisor so they know that you need to be promoted? So, how do you do the case for promotion? How do you show it? Do you show it? Do you sit in the front row? Do you ask question when they ask question? Do you ask for projects to work on? So I think you have to be more visible and intentional about your promotion, and people should know that. That would be the first things I can say to define why you want to be promoted, what value addition you can bring, and voicing it up without animosity. So in a friendly way. I think if you go and check and build relationship with the supervisor and make the case, you will get what you want.
Definitely. I think that, and I can tell about myself, like for many years, I never voiced my aspirations. And well, you cannot expect someone to guess what you
Mm-hmm.
want. You need to be very open about it. And I think many women kind of perceive that as, oh, I'm bragging, or I'm like, um, who am I to kind of demand, what I want? It's not about demanding. It's not about doing it in a negative way. It's actually about kind of just sharing
Yeah.
your aspirations and thinking about, as you said, the value that you're going to bring to your manager and to the company, not just about yourself, but also about the greater good. How are you serving the company?
Yes. And then the second tip is to build relationships, not just with your manager, but with other employees. And that is important because people have to know you as a person, as an expert in field, so they can be your ambassadors. They can talk about you even when you are not there. So you create your allies, your professional allies who will be your ambassadors when you are not there. So that is tip number two.
And this is so powerful. And I think this is one of the challenges that many of us face when we move to the remote kind of work, to build relationships and to build those allies and people that know us and trust us, just because everything become so transactional. It's all about, oh, I have a meeting and we talk about work. And how do you build those relationships with people who can support you? And as you said, like talk on your behalf when you're not there. Do you have any tips of how you do that in a virtual way?
So in a virtual way, I think when you have a meeting, like a staff meeting, for example, you have to be prepared. I remember anytime I go to a meeting, I have to ask a question, no matter what. So when they ask to ask question, I am the one, number one, to raise the question. When you are prepared, because and you have to raise the hand at the very beginning, you don't know how many people will respond to the question or they will give a chance to talk. So you have always to be ready online. And then you can also, if you are introvert and you don't want to talk, so you can give ideas. Now the chat, you can put your ideas in the chat and people will say, hey, they will put the likes and after they can come and ask you some questions and you can clarify. And then you can also, for those people who did do the likes and comment, you can ask for personal meeting, and then to ask them what did they like, what else they can do. So to ask, I think powerful people also, that is the tip number 3, asking powerful questions. So when you ask questions, you are open-minded, when, what, how. So those questions are opportunities, door openers. If you master to ask questions, I tell you, there is no way you cannot get where you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. This is incredible. And I heard also like getting feedback, right? I mean, it's not
Yeah,
just about asking
yeah,
questions, but also, getting feedback all
yes,
the time from your manager, from your peers,
yeah.
from stakeholders about how you perform and what else you can do and so forth. This is really powerful. Um,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Mm.
And what advice would you give to a woman that feels stuck in their current role? What should we do? What should she do? Sorry, cannot talk.
When you feel stuck, find a place, a quiet place, to listen to your intuition and write down everything that comes to your mind without judging. There will be the positive, there will be the negative, there will be anything. And then after you write that down, you can trash out the bad voices, the bad ideas that came to you, and then work on those great ideas that came through listening to your intuition. Because sometimes we don't listen to our intuition, we do mistake, we take not reasonable decision. But what I learned is that going to a quiet place, sometimes people talk about the place of genius, maybe in your house, outside on your porch, in the park, the place you feel like calm, and where you can really listen to yourself. And then you can rejuvenate. You can rejuvenate the energy. And also, I did learn about the power of breathing exercise, which we
Mm-hmm.
don't use so often.
We
And then
don't.
they give us energy. I learned from Joy Bartledge, who wrote the book The Joy in Business, the 4-4-6. When you breathe 4 times and you hold and you count 1 to 4, and then you release slowly, 6, counting 6. So, and she's advising to do it as a ninja. So the breathing techniques are at the fingertips, but we don't use them. So that is one thing. When you are stuck, pause and breathe, and get inspired and energized.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. And I can share that when I was stuck, I sometimes just decided to treat myself with something that will be fun, like taking a day out in nature, hiking, like skiing, anything, doing something outdoor, outside of stepping out, like
Yeah.
of your workplace or your room or whatever you are at, and to nature if possible, and just relaxing. A lot of times we're so tense, we're so stressed out that it's really clouding our judgment and our ability to see other things. And when we just allow ourselves to unwind and relax a little bit, we can finally see some maybe possibilities we haven't thought about. What are your thoughts about that?
That is true. And I am adopting this technique now. I committed myself to go early morning as I can for a workout, at least 20 minutes a day. I can tell you how, even looking at the sky, listening to the birds singing, I get so much inspiration, and I cannot wait to get home to write all the things I have down. So I do agree. We have to leverage the power of the nature, because the nature has a lot of in store for us. So I agree. Going out and even experience the show in the sky and the images over there. So this is something I enjoy. So yeah, that is a great tip. Thank you.
Perfect. And any final thoughts of encouragement or anything else you would like to share with our listeners before we end our call today?
So before we end our conversation today, I wanted to tell the listeners that you are worthy and deserving. So no matter the circumstances you are in now, you are the commander of your ideas. You are the commander of your behavior, so you can change the situation you are in. And don't think that working by yourself will get you where you want to go. So we did talk about building positive relationships, network, and also work on your personal development. So we did talk about 3 secrets, but the personal development is also gorgeous. So there is nothing more than developing you all the time, because sometimes when I was an executive director for social work employees, I was telling them there are things they don't teach in school. For example, active listening. You can't, that is a big skill to have, because sometimes we tend to be reactive instead of being responsive. So I would recommend to the listeners to always work on yourself, because nobody will order for you to develop.
This is incredible. And definitely, I think that active listening and empathy are 2 skills that are must haves for anyone and so important. And we lack so much of them. I mean, not just you and me, but in general, I mean,
Yeah.
we lack a lot of time, enough empathy, and really listening to someone else. So, totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And how can our listeners stay connected with you and learn more about your work?
So listeners can connect with me through Drocella360.com. If you go to Drocella 360.com, you can see even the downloadables, the free resources I'm giving, including how you can promote language diversity at the workplace, and also the secrets CEOs of the company can use to increase employee retention. And also, I am planning to have a summit on September 18, and I'm active on LinkedIn. I will post some about the summit. I want to talk about employee retention revolution. I did recruit 15 speakers and myself on the top of me, so we can exchange the 15 reasons why employees don't stay and what you can do to change that. So, and people will get some practical solutions, innovative solutions, but also they will have tools. It's like, for example, I want to talk about one speaker who will talk about a computer vision syndrome. Because now we are working online and sitting many hours on laptops and the computers, it does affect our health. So she will give the tips how you can manage so your eyes get rested, and then it can increase productivity. And I would have a comedian, I have humorist, I have people who talk about effective communication, because sometimes that is also lacking. And I would talk about how having your diversity in action system, they say systems create wealth. If you don't have one, we'll show you how you can customize and create one.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll put all the links on the show notes. And thank you so much, Drocella, for being here with me today and sharing all your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate what you do and for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the episode today. And before we wrap up, I'm really excited to give you a sneak peek into next week. So especially if you are wondering how can you balance a career and major life changes, I think this episode is going to be for you. And I'll be sitting down with Alex Slav. Alex is the VP of Marketing and Communications at Riva Solutions. And we talked about how she reached a VP level while, get this, being just weeks away from having her first child. And we also dive into her strategies for career growth, even when the timing seems less than perfect. Timing is never perfect, right? You definitely don't want to miss this episode. And this is coming next week. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to the podcast to never miss an episode. Share it with anyone you feel is going to be valuable for. And feel free to share your feedback with me. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day.